Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the 6th Partner in Action webinar. The foundation of the Partner in Action webinar comes from the communication model Predator-Prey Partner, which is a body of work developed by my sister, Pat Kirkland. If you want to know more about Pat or her work, you can visit patkirklandleadership.com. And as all of you on the call may know, my name is Amy Carroll, and I am very excited to be spending the next hour with you talking about some of the communication challenges and successes that you have had. And from the list of participants who signed up, it looks like we've got people calling in from North America and around Europe. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Nicola, I'm going to pass it over to you to review some of the technical points.
Thanks, Amy. Good evening, everybody who's on the call. So a few technical pointers for you. All of you are automatically muted to increase the quality of the line. If anyone is calling in on an iPad, please use a headset or make sure you're speaking close to the microphone. If you're calling in on a landline phone or a mobile phone, you can press *6 to unmute or mute yourself and *9 to raise your hand. If you're calling in via your computer or iPad directly through the Zoom app, click on the microphone symbol on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to mute and unmute. To raise your hand, click on Participants and then Raise Hands. You can also use the chat box for any questions or comments. I'll add this information to the chat box for those of you who are online. And if all else fails, unmute yourself and practice your interrupting skills. Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Nicola. Today, our call is going to be semi-interactive. It's going to be a discussion and it's going to be coaching. And we're going to be looking at the communication challenges that some of you submitted prior to the call. So this will be a combination of laser discussion and spot coaching on the behaviors and the mindset that are discussed in the Predator-Prey Partner program. So whether or not it's a challenge you submitted, you're welcome to participate in the discussion and volunteer to be coached. You may be doing some writing during the call, so grab a piece of paper and a pen and make sure you're not driving a vehicle. The call is going to consist of 3 areas. We're going to look at success stories, challenges you may have, and then questions and comments. And you can ask a question or make a comment by raising your hand, mentioned earlier by Nicola, using the participant icon or the chat box. Now, here's what's important. We're going to be reminding you to be concise. This is a brilliant skill for us to develop and to hone, so we're going to practice doing it on the call. So whatever you have to say, see if you can manage to say it in 4 sentences or less. And it may be that with the number of people on the call, it'll take a few minutes for me to respond to some of your comments. So just bear with me. Okay, so Nicola's posted that information. Great. Thanks, Nicola. So if you're someone who got this webinar invitation forwarded to you and you haven't attended one of my workshops, I'm delighted you're joining. Most people on the call have attended either a workshop or an intensive training with me. So it's possible that not everything I say is going to make perfect sense to you. So here's my request. As I've said in many of my trainings, you don't have to like what I say. You don't even have to agree with it. Just stay open to it and open to it over the coming weeks while you practice the new behavior that is recommended. And then see what starts to happen as you get better at the behavior and see what starts to change in your exchanges and interactions with others. Now, I'm going to give you a short overview, a review of the main concepts we're going to talk about in the Predator-Prey Partner, or using the Predator-Prey Partner model. So here's the thing. Most of us are behaving as partners most of the time, meaning I'm holding high respect for myself, high respect for the other, all as well. Yet, under pressure, stress, perceived threat, crisis, or simply if we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we can go into either a predator or a prey reaction. And the predator is that person that can be perceived as very arrogant or perhaps intimidating. They're holding too much respect for themselves, not enough for others. By contrast, the prey, and that's spelled P-R-E-Y, the prey is usually a really nice person and tends to hold too much respect for others. And the reason why this is problematic is because if we are not commanding and projecting and communicating enough respect for ourselves, it can trigger someone to be a predator towards us. So the power you have to change the exchanges, the interactions in your relationships is significant. All right. With that in mind, let's review or let me just see if I finished explaining that. So the two extremes. All right. So let me just say a little bit more about the model. So that's what happens to us often unconsciously. So first thing is you want to be aware of what is your default under pressure. And for some people that can flip-flop. And then the second point is that you want to step in partner before you need it. Stay in partner when the going gets tough. And remain in partner even if you don't get what you want. And you'll be doing this through your body language, your voice, your words, and your mindset. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you telling yourself? So tonight we're going to be dancing between all of those things. Obviously, without the video, we're not going to have so much work on smiling or how you're standing or gesturing, though there'll be plenty of other things that we'll be discussing. So as a reminder, here are the three key topics for discussion on our call today. First one, handling power plays. Second one, 3 key skills to use when presenting on conference calls. And third one, proactively intervene when you hear or witness unacceptable behavior. Now, based on those 3 topics, I'm going to be asking for a brave volunteer, someone who would like to get coached on one of those topics. Now, before you volunteer, let me give you a quote to inspire you. We don't earn courage by doing something and succeeding. We earn courage by doing something and surviving it. That's the good news and the bad news. Because you don't even have to be successful at something for you to get the courage. So I use that as an analogy when I'm inviting you to be brave and to say, yes, I'd like to get coached on this call, because it can feel pretty intimidating. And most of you know me and you know my style. And then, sometimes I can be a bit, let's say, overcommitted to your success. Oh, good. I see that, Vladis, you've raised your hand. So Vladis, are you volunteering to be coached? Is that correct? And T also, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I would like to be coached on the proactive interference during unacceptable behavior. Okay,
great. So Vladis, first of all, thank you. That's really lovely that you're being brave and stepping up first. And Vladis and I met up in Vilnius a few months back, and we had a wonderful couple of days with a group of amazing people together. So Vladis, here's what I want you to do. You can unmute yourself for the duration of our discussion. I would like to hear from you in 4 sentences, if possible, what the situation is where you witnessed or personally experienced unacceptable behavior.
It's my client.
Yeah.
I've got a call from him on an item of bad quality.
Okay.
I sold him a product.
Yeah.
And he called me back and said that it was bad. His production is going bad. And he just shouting, for example.
Okay. So this is a situation where you were the direct recipient of the aggressive behavior. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So just to give an idea, this is a very important one for us to tackle, and it's slightly different than the communication challenge we were talking about. We were talking about if you were a bystander and observed someone else. So let's jump into this one because it's really juicy. So Vladis, how long ago did this happen?
You mean how long ago?
Yeah.
Today.
It happened today. Okay, so it's rather fresh. Okay, so now we know that you've been practicing a lot of these partner behaviors and mindset. Tell us, what did you do in the situation?
I actually just, of course, I listened him up.
Excellent.
What is the problem?
Vladis, are you telling me that what's different than in the past is you did not interrupt him this time?
It depends on how long this is passed, because of course I also went through some coachings and some seminars before dealing with bad behavior of clients. So of course, probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would interrupt him or try to interrupt him just to present my point of view, not listening him to the final, let's say, his word. And
say that last part again. You would have interrupted him in the past.
Yes, and in the past I would have interrupted him.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't finish his speech.
Got it. So today, when you were allowing him to speak, was that challenging for you to hold back and not interrupt yourself, or not interrupt him?
Well, it's more natural now. He was not actually shouting. He was, let's say, speaking quickly, energetically, because he's got. We had this issue quite several times before, and it's continuous.
With the same person?
Yes, with the same person. It's a very important client of mine. I am very important supplier of him, and the situation in the market is that the prices are going down of the product, and I'm still trying to manage to hold those prices rather high. He knows the situation, and probably it was also part of his manipulation to reduce the prices. Okay,
so in a way, you saw that there might have been another motivation he had that did that help you to take it less personally?
Yes. It was not the first time. Actually, I already know. I already know how to behave with this person. He's not aggressive. Actually, very nice guy, and I like him. So I just don't like. To get claims from my clients in general. So I've got frustrated, and probably when he already finished, or I don't actually remember. I just probably listening him up and asked him several questions about the, let's say, situation to get in more details.
Excellent.
And he, of course, he answered. It was later. It was already normal conversation. I just felt myself that one moment I got so much frustrated. I think in half in a second several scenarios that he is going to manipulate. Or maybe it's true that it happens. So, because sometimes when he calls and we try to understand the situation later on, I send my guys. For example, I sent today my guys my production.
I'm going to invite you to keep using that great pausing that you were using earlier, because you're starting to speed up and it's getting a little overwhelming to follow you. And this is a really good skill for you to practice if you're feeling under pressure. Remember?
Thank you. Remember. So I just tried to understand the situation in more details.
Yeah.
I sent my production managers to learn the situation in his place.
Yeah.
Sometimes I also thought one of the options that probably his production manager made a bad result during last shift. He asked why. He told him that bad raw material. So sometimes it happens also in my factory. So I just went through in half a second several scenarios. However, I've got quite energetic. I've started to probably speak him too quickly, maybe too loud, and in this let's say situation, in this moment, I think that I could have behaved a little bit differently.
Okay,
not a little bit.
Pause for a second.
Let's say.
So excellent. So you're already doing a lot of things that are really important. Let's point them out. As we said earlier, you avoided interrupting him. You let him speak. Then you ask questions. This is a way of showing interest, getting him to vent more if he needs to. I think I also heard you making up a story as to why he may have been behaving that way that may have had nothing to do with you. And now what you're doing is just, a few hours after the incident, you're stepping back and you're already analyzing what you could have done to be even more effective. And that is what I just pointed out earlier, so it's no surprise, is the keeping the slow pace by adding pauses.
Okay, so I think that in this situation, I should have listened up him until the end.
Yeah, even
more. Then I would just very calmly said him, Rolandas, his name is Rolandas. Yeah. Rolandas, look, I've heard you. Let's do as following.
Okay, hold on, Vladis, time out. So you might think that that's the summarizing part of active listening. If you say, listen, I heard, if I say to you, Vladis, I heard what you said, that's not as satisfying as, Vladis, did I understand you correctly that, or in this case, you would say, Rolandus, did I understand correctly that the issue is bad quality of the product and that this has caused a delay for you? And you're feeling very frustrated. Did I get that right?
You got it right, Amy. Yes.
So
now I realize that I should have repeated.
Right.
I should have reflected his words.
Right.
Like you taught us. Yes. This I didn't do.
That's okay. That. Because it takes a lot of practice to remember to do that consistently. So now, Vladis, here's my question for you. When and where are you going to practice the active listening and summarizing in low stress situations so that you can do it in high pressure situations?
I'm now at the business trip in Sofia in Bulgaria in the hotel. After the webinar, I will go to a meeting with my, business partner, from whom I'm going to buy quite a nice piece of equipment.
Yes.
And this is the moment where I'm going to start and to practice those
excellent
things.
So you're not wasting any time. I like that, Vladis. And Vladis, the other thing you want to do is remember the formula for practice: 3 to 5 minutes a day in a low stress situation. So I'm going to invite you to keep practicing it until it becomes a daily habit that you're doing this active summarizing in any exchange, so that in your high stress situations, like with Rolandus, it will start to kick in.
Okay, thank you. I can also tell a little bit about or maybe it will be later. Everybody will tell about the challenges I face.
Yes, hold on to your challenge, and
okay.
If for some reason we run out of time, let's see, just remind me at about 7:45 if you can interrupt me, and if not, we can have a quick email exchange if you like.
Okay, that suits me.
Great, thanks, Vladis. Okay. All right, so now I know I have 2 people who were willing to be volunteered, and I have Miriam. And is Miriam, are you on the call? Yes, you are. I see. Thank you, Miriam.
Sorry, it took me a while to find the unmute sign. Yes, I am. Hi.
Okay, good. And no need for apologizing. And I remember I saw your image earlier, so I did know you were on the call.
Good.
Great. Okay, so Miriam, thank you for sharing with me before the call this influence challenge, which is also related to unacceptable behavior and how to address it. Now, for everyone on the call, I'm going to summarize what I remember Miriam told me. And Miriam, you correct me if I got it wrong.
You will do.
And then we'll jump in. And everybody on the call, be listening, because I don't have an answer for Miriam. So I am interested in hearing your thoughts and comments. So I'll explain a situation, the real situation that happened to Miriam, and that she and her colleagues were left baffled and unsure how to address it. So after I explain it, I'll open it up to see if anybody wants to give your comments, your suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Miriam, this was a position when you were the CFO of a subsidiary of your company.
Yeah.
You and your 4 colleagues, and the other 4 colleagues were all male, were presenting a budget plan to the board of the group, who were 5 men.
Mm-hmm.
So in this room of 10 people, 9 of them were men.
Mm-hmm.
One board member blamed your boss, and now your boss was the managing director, and he accused your boss. It sounded like it was probably an aggressive, maybe sarcastic tone, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That he said to your boss, "You're not burning enough for the business," meaning you're not working hard enough. Is that what it was?
Exactly. You're not passionate enough.
Not passionate enough. And your feeling was, that's crazy, that's ridiculous, it's an assault, because you guys have lots of passion and success on developing the business.
Absolutely.
So it seemed completely out of line.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this was aggressive enough that your boss temporarily lost his speech for a moment. And because that's what happens to us when we're in shock. Our brain shuts down temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you did was, it sounds like you were coming to your boss's defense and wanting to protect him and defend him. And you said to the board member, "Hey, come to Hamburg and see how much passion and how our team works." Mm-hmm. And you said something like, "You will be surprised how hot it is in Hamburg because we burn so hot."
Yes.
So you were, playfully, and again, I could be getting this wrong, though it sounds like your attempt was to playfully engage the board member and use the same terminology.
Exactly.
And then the board member, and you can see I can't stay very neutral about this, because I'm pretty shocked that he said this as well.
Yeah.
He answered with a comment making a joke about heat waves and women.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't recall the full sentence, though the whole board burst out laughing.
Yeah.
And added comments to that sentence. So this is clear, this is where humor is used as a weapon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if you had said anything that moment, he would have said, "Oh, you can't take a joke."
For sure.
People who will hide behind that kind of harshness.
Yes.
What's interesting is you said that your 4 other colleagues were shocked and silent.
Yeah.
As were you.
Yeah.
After a moment, your boss regained his composure and continued as best he could with the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the presentation, your colleagues, including your boss, came to you and expressed how ashamed they were of the board members making that comment at your cost. So I really want to stop and appreciate what a wonderful, supportive team you have.
Yes.
That as men, they were able to appreciate and understand that was completely out of line and inappropriate and unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that they acknowledged that to you and used such words as they felt ashamed.
Yeah.
And that then you told me that even weeks later, your boss still felt guilty because he didn't speak up. He didn't, you came to his defense, and he was probably feeling like I should come to her defense. And he wished he had said, "Don't speak to my CFO like that," and leave the room.
Yeah.
That was his fantasy response.
Yeah.
And that he said he felt like he couldn't do this because he knew that the risk could have been significant. And he has his children, his daughters who study and who he financially supports.
Exactly.
So this is the scenario. So I put this out to everyone on the call. This is the scenario and the challenge where you have someone in a position of hierarchy, of power. And not only that he has his peers supporting him, because his peers had to laugh in order to not risk their positions.
Yep.
And I'm not justifying their behavior, though I can appreciate, the kind of control that this guy must have in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So let me take a moment to turn it over to the people on the call. Anyone who wants to make a comment or ask a question or perhaps have a suggestion for how to address a situation like that.
Oh, hi, Carol. It's Amy. It's Nadia.
Yeah. Hi, Nadia.
The only thing I would say is, with anything like this, my personal opinion is always to try and set aside one-on-one time on another day, and then talk to that person and say what you thought, whether it was offensive or otherwise, unless you think that would impact that person's career. Personally, that's what I feel would be the best next step, because alternatives within our organizations are to reach out to an independent or third party. For me, that then involves a lot more bureaucratic recording of the matter, and it can make things worse.
Yeah. So, and Ron, I want to come to you about your comment in a moment. I'm very curious to hear more about that. So I would say that Nadia's suggestion, Miriam, is because in this situation, you wouldn't necessarily, you see, your boss knew the risk was too great to say something in the moment. That's not to say he couldn't go back and say something one-on-one if he chose to. The thing about saying something publicly in the moment is the risk of that person losing face. Are you familiar with that term, Miriam?
Absolutely.
Saving face. Yeah. So, and yet it should still be, it loses some of the power, because then you don't get to have a public platform, except you're trading off the safety of you not making yourself vulnerable to losing your job, or in that case, your boss knowing that he felt like that was a real enough risk that he chose not to do it. So, and also this is slightly different than the bystander, in some ways, the bystander behavior, because, I mean, you could say it different ways. The behavior had completed in a way. There was no guarantee he wasn't going to keep doing it, because in a way, he attacked your boss. You came to your boss's defense. That was probably completely unacceptable for him. So he went below the belt. He decided, I'm really going to get nasty now.
Yep.
So I would say that what you would want to do in that situation is consider confronting the board member one-on-one about the behavior. And that's something that you would need to say, I'm getting a little distracted here, that's something that you would need to prepare very, very carefully. And you would want to rehearse it and make sure you were saying it in such a way that you, as best you could, you were helping him save face, and that you would appreciate that in the future that he would be more aware of how those comments don't have a place in that environment. And I have to say, well, you've got a senior person who has, it sounds like he may have had the highest position in the company.
Yep.
There's the likelihood is that he wants to maintain the power.
Yes.
Okay, so let me hold on for a second. So Ron had said this feels like blackmail, and T, you're saying surely he could lose some face here, maybe by bringing the discussion back to the real matter in hand by stating that. Okay, so let me check with Ron first, and then T, if you want to comment as well. Okay, so Ron, do you want to unmute yourself and comment?
Hi, Amy and all.
Hi.
Hi. First of all, I would like to say that Miriam stood up for her boss, and I really appreciate that, because I also like to do that when someone is attacked.
Yes.
You don't be just stand by and watch it. Also, I can understand that her boss didn't spoke on behalf of her to protect her, and told his boss it's unacceptable to such behavior.
Okay, so I'm not sure I followed. So Ron, when you said this feels like blackmail, what were you referring to exactly?
the boss of Miriam felt it could like blackmail because there was so much at stake for him, possibly. His career, the studying of his children, whatever.
Yeah.
And still, I believe if you honestly tell what's on your heart and have a solution as well, so you don't only complain, also offer a solution,
Nice.
then you can say what you want. I had a similar situation with one of my bosses somewhere high up the ladder, and I told him why I thought he didn't do his job properly, and I never had any problems with that.
And I'm guessing, Ron, that when you went to that person, you did it one-on-one, you probably were able to say it in a neutral, kind, respectful way, and you didn't make it a personal attack. Is that an accurate assumption?
That's right.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So T, I hear your note. I'm understanding now what you're saying, that he should lose face here. Nah. And if he feels like he's losing face in that moment, in that public arena, someone's going to pay a price. And I guarantee it's not going to be him. It's going to be, someone in that room, either Miriam or her boss or both of them.
Yeah.
So the idea is, we're not saying he shouldn't be confronted. You want to be very strategic about when and how. And I would say that in order to help him save face and still confront the behavior, like the example that Ron gave us when he spoke to his boss, is doing it one-on-one and doing it in this kind, direct, respectful manner. It might be something like saying, let's say the boss's name is Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. Say, so Miriam, you and your boss could have potentially brainstorm together to decide, you might say to him, hey, boss, I really feel like I need to say something to him. And do you feel like we should do it together, or would you prefer for me to leave you out of it? Or, if you want to have a very, very clear communication, and then you want to let your boss know that you're preparing to go above his head to confront the board member. So you would have cleared that with your boss, and then one idea is to set the time up with Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, thanks for taking the time for me today. And again, Miriam, I don't know if I ever told you this. I had to have a delicate conversation. This was back in 2005. Mm-hmm. It was a very awkward moment. I was very concerned, and I literally spent 14 hours preparing for it. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is I don't have to now prepare 14 hours every time I want to have a difficult conversation. And those 14 hours of practice built muscles for me so that I can do this more easily. So I'm going to wing it right now off the top of my head. Here, and I'm going to say this to you, Miriam, and feel free to comment on how you think that could have gone, knowing the board member, and other people on the call, feel free. So, and here I'm going to weave in a little bit what Amelia is saying, is letting him understand the impact of his behavior on you. Fantastic. So, Jeff, I wanted to talk to you about the presentation we had last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, when we were presenting the budget. You may recall that there was some discussion about if we were really committed in getting the results. And there was a comment you made about women and heat. Let's see what it.
Heat waves.
Heat waves. Thank you. And so you're just saying it in a very neutral, calm way. You may. I don't know if you recall. And then you're also. This is how you're helping him save face. You're like giving him that opportunity. You may not remember this. So you made a comment about women and heat waves, and I have to say that even if I wasn't a woman, I would find that comment inappropriate. And then you're going to be tempted to say very inappropriate or completely, just keep it simple and straightforward, was inappropriate. And let's see, now I can read. The impact it had on me was that it felt like good natured humor was being used. Oh no, let's see. The impact it had on me was that it left me feeling disrespected, even if that wasn't your intention. So that comment, like, even if that wasn't your intention, that's a way to help him save face, because we don't know for sure if it was his intention, even though, we can guess. Though what you're doing is you're letting him know that, and if this guy Jeff is a reasonable person, and you come there with this assertive, direct, mutually respectful statement, even if he was guilty of everything, he's probably going to at least say, yeah, okay, you're right. I can see how, or no, gosh, it wasn't my intention, and want to dismiss it. Then you would complete it by saying, thanks for letting me share that with you, Jeff. And in the future, if you accidentally say something like this in the future, is it okay with you if I check with you? And I discuss it with you. So now you're saying, my friend, I will be back if I need to be. And again, this is all very delicate because he's the senior person, and that's why doing it in a really, really respectful manner and not excessively respectful, balanced respect is so important. And that last part, if he wasn't planning to put his behavior in check, there's a higher chance he would put it in check, because you're asking permission. Can I come and have another discussion with you if this accidentally happens again? So Miriam, let me pause here and hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's, as you can imagine, it was a situation with a strong power play. So as you suggested, this discussion would have been the right one. And I would have needed to practice that to make it as little emotional as possible. Because the moment I get emotional, he will get emotional. And then all this carefully chosen words are basically not having the effect that we wanted.
So good point, Miriam. So yes, you're also helping me see that this example that we've been working on is absolutely a power play. And it's also about the, addressing unacceptable behavior. And I would say in general, if you think that you're going to be excessively emotional, it's probably better to wait.
Exactly.
Because there's an expression, there's no fire. So poor choice of words around the heat, probably.
No, I know what you mean.
Because we think and sometimes when we're really emotional, that's when we're most willing to speak out, and it doesn't do us any good because we burn bridges.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's better. Yes, go ahead.
No, that's why we all went quiet in that moment, because me and my colleagues, we all knew this we don't want to accept, but none of us found the right words, especially not in that forum with the 10 of us.
Absolutely.
That could do any good. So that was a very awkward moment.
Yeah. And we're going to wrap up here in a moment. So I'm going to move to another coaching before we complete today. The one thing I would do is encourage you to rehearse comebacks, comments, just like you had the comment of come to Hamburg and see how hot it is in Hamburg because we burn so hot. So you that was a playful comment. So you can keep brainstorming in your mind. If you could redo that moment, what would have been a fully partner response? It might have been, Jeff, I can appreciate that you're wanting to make light of the situation. I'm not sure that really lands in the way you may have meant it.
No, that wouldn't have pleased him.
It wouldn't have pleased him. Of course not. And this is a little bit what T is getting at. Doesn't he? Yeah. You're holding him responsible. So, but we can't know.
He would have felt that he lost face already then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he's a person who loses he needs to be in power. So he's very, very easily feels attacked.
Got it.
And then,
and you know that about him enough to know that, unfortunately, the safest and most necessary thing in that moment was to say nothing.
Exactly.
Though that's not to say you can't speak out after the fact.
Yeah, I see.
Great.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay. So, Ron, he is not on this call. You're talking about Jeff, the board member? No, I don't think he's on the call. No, I'm pretty sure he's not.
Definitely not.
Okay, definitely not then. Okay, so Nadia, I want to move over to the influence challenge that we're working on with you.
Hi, Amy. Yes, thank you. So my influence is a power play, and very briefly, I work in a team that has 5 distinct functions. So we each have our own roles and responsibilities. And the thing is, I'm the newest member, and I was assigned a new function and to develop strategies with the businesses. There's one person who had joined 2 years before me who was fulfilling part of my role because they didn't have a distinct function that I'm now looking after. And so far, I've developed 3 business function strategies.
So pause for a second, Nadia. I'm not sure, and I may be wrong, I'm not sure we need quite this much detail. If you were to jump to the issue at hand, is it the power play with this person?
Yeah, it is exactly. It's every time I share.
Call this person Chris.
Okay, it's a woman. So yeah, Christine. Yes.
Okay, Christine, go ahead.
Christine. Whenever there is an opportunity or a moment where I'm speaking or representing the processes that I have set up for this function or the strategies for a specific business function, she will always come out with something to undermine what I'm saying. For example.
Hold on. I want to point out 2 things in your speech, and this is important for everyone on the call. Okay. What I heard you say, Nadia, is you use the word whenever, blah, 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 and always, blah, 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 blah. Those are words, I think, I don't know if they're qualifiers or they're, maybe somebody knows that term for these words, the always, never, those exaggerated terms. These can get us in trouble.
Okay.
Because if I say to you, adverbs of frequency, thank you, T. I knew you would come up with that. This is an example of adverbs of frequency. And it can leave people feeling defensive.
Yeah.
So, E true. You want to soften the language.
Sure. So
it would be something like, instead of whenever, often or sometimes, or instead of always, frequently or occasionally.
Yeah.
All right. Because you've got to, I'm going to encourage you very strongly to remove those kind of expressions from your vocabulary.
No, thanks for that, Amy, because although it is that every time there isn't a meeting, so I will work on that for sure. The example is that she'll say, "Oh, I've been doing this for 2 years already. This is nothing new." The problem is I'm finding I'm falling into prey position because 1, I do not want to raise discussion on the spot in front of all my colleagues, and 2, I am not quite sure.
This little tiny thing, all my colleagues, drop that one, in front of my colleagues.
In front of my colleagues, yes, in front of my colleagues. And only recently, I shared 2 strategies again, which involved a lot of work and insights and analysis. And she replied to my email to the team, but addressing my boss, asking my boss.
Removing the word but.
Yes.
She addressed my boss.
Word. Yeah. She replied 3 days later with an email directly addressing my boss, not me, about the presentation. and saying, with
Okay,
reference, yeah,
I'm not sure I need more information right now. So
Okay.
let's say right there, you sent out an email. 3 days later, she writes the email to your boss, CCing you. So
and everybody else, and the rest of the team.
Okay, so there's a maybe attempt to lose face, wanting to somehow publicly point something out. So in the ego tango, we pretend not to notice.
Yes, I did exactly that, actually, Amy. I have not.
Tell us, what did you do?
I did not reply, even though I noticed that my boss tends to.
No, too many details. So just so you know, everybody on the phone, Nadia has given me permission to be really brutal about interrupting her if I think she's giving me too much information. So I'm not being mean. I just
No, it's very helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
So you didn't reply.
I did not reply at all because it didn't address me. And to be frank, I don't normally reply to anyone if they're not addressing me in the email, even if it refers to my work. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that seems like an appropriate way to handle that situation.
Yeah.
I think she was baiting you and you didn't take the bait. Although clearly the fact that you're bringing it up here, I'm guessing it's still somehow bothering you.
Well, what the words she's using within the email, which is again reaching colleagues, and unfortunately for 2 years since being in the company, she has taken every opportunity.
She has taken opportunities, not every.
She's taken opportunities, yes. Opportunities to almost negate the need for my presence. This is the point. So it's a matter of me. I have just remained very quiet and for me, I feel like I'm in prey.
Hold on. Believe it or not, even if you feel like you're in prey, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in prey.
Uh-huh.
I suspect that this is you having to curb your ego over and over and over. And it seems like you're doing it. Bravo. It seems like it's challenging and you keep doing it. And that's impressive.
Uh-huh. Well,
and what we want to look at, though, because I know that when you and I met a few months ago, I recall this was also, this situation was the case. Has the relationship shifted in any way, more positively or more negatively?
She just carries on doing what she's doing. And I just saw a chat message saying, ask her for her help. She doesn't do what I do to the depth and the level of insight required to do a good job.
I think what T is suggesting here is create a situation where you need her help.
Oh, I did. Oh, I have.
Excellent.
I've done that twice.
And how did that
go? Unfortunately, substandard support.
Well, you don't want to actually expect anything.
Yes.
What you want her to feel. Here's the story I've made up in my head. Nadia, I think you intimidate the heck out of her. I think that she may be feeling threatened by you, even though that may not be your intention at all. And I think that she's using this approach to undermine you, to somehow to reduce the value you may be offering. I don't know if any of that's true.
It's certainly clearly true because I have other behaviors that support what you're saying.
Okay, so in that case, technically none of this is personal. And in a way, you could take this. It's a very, very backhanded compliment because you're probably, and I do know this to be true, very skilled at your job, and you bring a tremendous amount of value.
Well, I hope so. It's just at the end of the day, I'm in a role that really does rely hugely on teamwork.
Right. Okay. So we're not there yet. I'm telling you these things as a way to help you shift your mindset.
Yeah.
You said earlier, I feel like I'm the prey, and maybe not. I think it's just that your ego keeps getting a beating, and that can feel like prey even when it's not really.
Yes, I think I do know what you mean. Yes,
Right.
That's very likely. Yes.
Good.
Whereas I'm just keeping quiet. Yes.
Right. So hopefully that's helping you to not be so frustrated by the situation. You just remember, oh, this is my ego reacting. Okay. Then, like the suggestion, so I would really keep building the relationship as much as you can. It's not going to feel authentic. The one approach would be, do you happen to like this woman, Christine?
Well, I'd like to, because I'm always open to.
You have a choice of yes or no.
Neutral. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I can accept that. So here's the thing. That's already giving me great information. This is what I'm going to ask you to do for the next 4 weeks. You ready?
Yeah.
You are going to treat her as if she's already your friend.
Yeah.
What that means is you are going to sit next to her in meetings. You're going to give eye contact. You're going to smile at her. You're going to use her name. You're going to offer to get her a coffee when you're getting yourself a coffee. Don't go above and beyond, just normal, friendly things that you would do with someone you like.
Okay.
Just that. That's already a lot. Do that for the next 4 weeks and send me an email and give me an update.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nadia, we're going to pause you there because I want to check in with Vladis. Are you still here on the phone?
Yes, sure.
Okay, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to see in 2 sentences, you can share your challenge. And the other thing I want to do for everybody is before I do that, I want to give you the 3 key skills for presenting on a conference call. So these are 3 things. Vocal variation. This is something it occurred to me that I've been doing this throughout the call and not realizing it. So monotone is like this, where there's no change in the voice and everything's very flat and the same. And then of course that can get it can sound boring even if you're talking about something fascinating. So just by adding vocal variation, moving your voice up and down, it's going to be more interesting and more engaging for the listeners. The second thing, and this is something I was working on specifically with Vladis, is the pausing. Because the listener needs time to digest what you said. And finally, downward inflection. So if I talk to you with my voice going up at the end of each thought, because I'm wanting to let you know I'm not a threat and I'm a really nice person, I'm going to lose my credibility, right? So pausing and downward inflection will give you that projection of confidence, competence, and credibility. And the vocal variation gives you a sense of sounding interesting. Okay, wonderful. Okay, Vladis, over to you. Tell us what is your challenge, and let's see if we can address it in the next 2 or 3 minutes.
My challenge is, of course, replacing but, because it's like an insect going around my head, and sometimes it's going out of my mouth, and I'm realizing that it's going out. However, I just, it's too late to do something. Of course, I'm repeating, then I'm repeating with another phrase.
So Vladis?
Replacing it. Sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Great. It's a painful stage you're at. I can appreciate that. Removing the word but. The good news is that awareness is actually a sign of progress. So, and then I'm also hearing that when you catch yourself say it, you go back and you replace it with something else. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Excellent. Have you seen progress in reducing the amount of times you say but?
Yes, I see the progress. Also, I see that sometimes to remove word but already, I understanding that but is going out from my mouth or is going to go out. I'm looking for the words to replace it, and I realize sometimes that but should be said in this moment. Is it good, or I would like to ask
you? Get the buzzer. -5 points. Thanks for playing. No, actually, Vladis, you never want to use the word but. And that seems pretty extreme. The reason you want to avoid bud at all costs is because it's too exhausting to monitor it. So it's much, much easier to remove it at 100%, even if you use it and it wouldn't matter in the sentence. So that's why it'll simplify your life if you shoot for and aim for removing it at 100%. Make sense?
Yes, I've got it.
Okay, good. Thanks for asking. And you know that's one of my favorite things to encourage people to do. So thank you for bringing it up at the end of the call. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up now. And if you want to have more information about the work I do, feel free to check out my website, carrollcoaching.com. And if you want to follow any past newsletters that you didn't get to receive, they've been going, I've got about 20 or 30 of them at this point. You can go to resources for you. Newsletters, password is partner with a capital P. For upcoming events, we've got the next webinar, which is July 3rd. It's going to be the same time as this call, and as usual, limited to 50 participants. The next Leadership Presence Open program is October 16th and 17th on the Swiss Riviera. This is the third one I'll be running. I had the first one in December. The second one was last month, and they were both good fun and very successful. So you're welcome to join me for the one in October if you would like to, or you have a peer, a colleague, a husband or wife who you would like to send. They wouldn't be the first husbands and wives that I've received. Now, it may be a good moment to now take a screenshot of the social media channels. You might need to switch to full screen on your device in order to see them at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to check out my Partner in Action podcast series, it launched last year, and they're very brief 10-minute interviews with people on their partner success stories. So you can go to my website or iTunes and search Carroll Communication Coaching to find that podcast, Partner in Action. And if you have a partner success story that you want to share and you would like to be interviewed, please reach out to me and we can set up a time. And as a thank you, I'll offer you a half an hour of complimentary coaching. All right, folks. I want to thank you for a great discussion today. Thank you for your participation. And until next time, happy partnering, everyone.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
Bye, Amy. It was great.
Bye, thanks.